of housekeeping. Joan, when she records, is requesting that keep the mics off, and then if you're gonna address something to the group, turn the mic on. So if you're gonna address the group, hit the green button, it turns green for Joan's purposes, so she can hear what's going on. Otherwise,
Diane.
Jackie.
Teresa.
Tom.
Mike.
Cooper,
City Planner Dan Licht.
Bruce West.
Dick.
Chad. Brian.
Al.
Where's Harry? Move with that one addition.
all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I approve.
Second from Tom.
Aye.
All opposed, signify by saying.
Can I start? Yes, you can. One of the things that I remember them saying in St. Francis was like the City Works building being separate from the rest of it. And looking at these plans, would our City Works building be like across the parking lot hypothetically? Or that was just like one of the they were like, they would like for it to be all together since they all are always in communication and stuff like that. I don't know if anyone else remembers that.
On here does not include at the present.
So originally we talked about when the plans got drawn up for the maintenance department, it was actually set back behind. It would have been north of the fire station is originally what it was planned out to be. Not connected, but at the same facility, and then it got changed to staying here. Correct.
I also think that that's something that would be phased. I mean, we've got to look at this financially as well. I don't think we can necessarily jump into everything going to one spot all at once, but there's a potential to do City Hall or the fire department and add City Hall, depending on how the stuff comes, and then the site can be designed for it, but you don't have to build for it right away. So that these things can be phased out, and that can help, especially if we can have Public Works here for a time being. But it's not that it would never be at the same place. Not sure which way it would go, it's just options.
I think they were kind of mentioning that they would recommend do it all at once because it would be cheaper in the long run. The thing that stood out to me was the slab versus the brick and mortar. What is these plans? They said that was like significantly less expensive.
These are the slab walls.
Oh, they are?
Same as that. Broughton did theirs, and it would be the same thing on these.
Okay, awesome.
One of the questions, Mr. Chair, that I've asked, and Dan and I have had a discussion about, is, okay, so if we look at this in phases, do we do it all, whatever, but my question was, what is it gonna cost to bring this building and the fire station building up to code, number one, up to all the issues that are going on within the buildings? So I would like to see that number. That's a guesstimate type of number, because if it seems high or a lot of money, why are we going to spend money on a couple of buildings that maybe in the end, we should have just said, okay, let's bite the bullet and let's build all of this, take this property and sell it, you know? And so I would, before we keep moving this train down the track, I think this committee needs to see a number like that as to what it's gonna cost to bring up to codes and up to, you know, there'd be some remodeling done or some, whatever's gonna be done.
If I'm not mistaken, those numbers have been requested.
Mr. Chair, so we are working to get quotes.
Okay?
Basically to accomplish that off the building officials' list of items that
Yep.
needed to be corrected.
Okay.
So the intent would be this discussion tonight, our next meeting is that discussion.
Perfect.
Here's the numbers for fixing what's here. Here's the numbers for the new building. Here's some ways that you could phase construction for each of these projects. And then also having Ellers comment on what the financing looks like.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else with added comments, questions?
I think I would, Mr. Chair. I think we have I'm going to jump, if I may, sir, to my comment for later. I'd like to put it in now, if you will. I think we're at a point where, and I'm happy to hear what Mr. Licht is saying, and this lady over here, what Teresa was saying, Jeff over there, I guess. It's time to take a look and maybe look backwards and deal with some of the generalities, like everybody here, I'm sure, has heard of the who, what, when, where, and how, when, where, why, and how. I know you have. We were tasked by the city council with the what, where, and when, not with the who and the other three. If my memory is correct, that's what we were supposed to do. We would like to see these buildings built on these spots in the future and give a timetable for those buildings. And you can shake your head at me, Mr. Chair, if you wish, but I distinctly recall that being one of the criteria. And we've gotten away from that. And so I have decided that we all, to speak here tonight, that we all agree that the future Civic Center is going to be on 9 and 45. And that we've talked about another fire station east of 169 at one time in the past, one of our past meetings. And I think that's good. But I just believe that we should start from the end in generalities and work back to the present. So if we, for instance, and I've got, we talked about phases. Phase 1 would be to construct the fire station on the northwest corner of, and this would be before 2030, that's in the next 5 years. Also heard when we first talked about this that we were looking at 15, 20 years out. So I'm saying that, and these can be sooner rather than later if so decided, but we should build the fire station on the northwest corner of 9 and 45. And upon completion of that, we'll move Public Works into there. That's phase 1. Phase 2, construct a city hall over there on 9 and 49. And then once that's complete, we'll move the Public Works into here. Construct on phase 3 is construct the Public Works building. And once that is complete, phase 4 is to sell this complex and put the money to the new fire station across the way, or pay off some of the bills we have. Now, those are what I see, and if we look at those things from that end back, we can set those guys up, and we don't have to worry about those anymore. We can look at how we're gonna remodel this building, how we're gonna fix this building, how we're gonna fix the other buildings, so that we can get by while we're working in the first 5 years to get the fire station down the road. So that's my comment. Open to discussion on it if anybody wants to. If not, so be it.
So I appreciate your comments, but you're way ahead of the wagon, because the information that we're looking at doing is we're the infrastructure committee to say, what do they need? The question that you're talking about, the zoning and the location and the development and building, we won't even be part of that decision. What we're trying to do is do the homework side of what's going to be needed and how that's going to be processed. So going backwards, we're already back, but now we're looking at where the deficiencies are, which we have information on. So
I respectfully disagree.
I understand being disagreed with, but really, it's a moot point at this point, because we have to progress to put all the information together,
So,
which is not a part of this meeting. We need to put all the information together, and we're gonna present that information to city council to say, city council, this is what it looks like to put the whole plan together. Whether it's 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, because all those numbers and statements were made, but they were made in conversation. There's nothing definitive that's going on at this table. This table is all research and development.
I must have missed more meeting than one, sir, with all due respect.
It's okay, but I'm saying this, If you look around the table, all this is putting information into the soup. We're not even eating the soup yet. Because we won't even be part of that decision. We'll take this information to City Hall. We'll say, City Hall, this is what the recommendations are and what it looks cost-effective wise. This is an idea of how we can proceed forward. And proceeding forward is not part of our control at all. It's just gonna be.
So we're not gonna deal with the money and who pays for it and how it's paid for and why it's paid for and so forth and so on. We're not gonna deal with that.
I hate to tell you this, but when we make the decision to give it to City Hall, they may not even take our recommendation.
I understand that.
All guys, so how the money is spent is gonna be done by City Council. When the money is spent, gonna be done by City Council. Who's gonna spend the money is gonna be done by City Council. You and I are not gonna have
Then
any
why are
part,
we doing the big planning on this building right here?
because that's the piece of the puzzle of where the projection is of what the infrastructure needs.
So, Mr. Chair, I think the way this was set up is when the town board went out and got the plans for that, there was a lot of pushback about this is gonna cost this much.
Yeah, $14 million, I recall.
So the town board, now city council, backed the train up and said, we need to set up a committee to start from scratch and back the train up, as you said, and look at everything. So the first meeting we go through here, and we hear from the staff as to how this works day to day. What are the issues? We have the building official go through what are the code issues. Second is we look at the plans that were done and see how that relates to what is in place here today. We do the tour of the other facilities to inform the committee as to what other cities are doing with their new construction. And so you can compare those facilities to what's here and also to what's being talked about. So it gives you kind of a reference point as to, is that out of whack? Or is this way out of date? You know, so it puts it in context. And then as I said, the next meeting will be the quotes to look at the cost to improve this, to make it workable, short-term. Costs, updated costs for the facility down there, potentially phased in, if it can be broken into, you know, its separate parts of fire hall, city hall, public works. And then some financing information from the city's bond council. So then this committee can look at all of that information together, having been informed about the existing facility, planned facility, other facilities, put together, do it all at once, break it out like this, phase it this way, and send that up to the council.
Okay.
So, I said this last night when there was a brief discussion.
No,
of the
you
planning
did,
commission,
and
that
I was-
think you're right where we're going, we're just getting there in a different way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, cause what you outlined is basically one of the recommendations that could come out of this committee.
I'd rather be ahead than behind, and I
Well, and it's like we've talked about at planning commission, I could write a comprehensive plan and hand it out to everybody, but there has to be the homework behind it, so that there's buy-in and it's been proofed.
Here's the benefit, Richard. None of this can happen without, because every single person here is probably talking to somebody outside of here about what's going on. Every single one, okay? So you've got positive and negatives about, I don't know there's a single person in here that wants to spend the money. I can tell you right now, but I can tell you, they don't want to spend the money on tax dollars, they don't want to spend the money. But I know if you don't pre-plan and you don't put the information together, you'll never have it, and then you have everything broke down, and then you're spending twice as much money when you could have been prepared ahead of time. And all we're doing is the preparation side. All we're doing is the research side. You're jumping to the money's already spent. Yeah, we're not even there yet.
I have to agree though with Dick. that
I agree,
if
but-
We have this big pie and we're taking out 2/3 of the information that goes to us. How do you make a recommendation? I mean, we've all seen the shape that everything's in. But then we're supposed to make this recommendation that now it comes up to 25 or 30 million. It's ludicrous in any business. What are you gonna have a group making a recommendation without knowing the cost?
Yeah, that's why we're having the meeting next week, or.
The
we're
next
getting those
session,
cost
I think
numbers.
this is the third time we've said this now, that there
Well,
will
I
be the
was-
cost.
Okay, I was
Yep.
not at the main meeting.
No, this,
So
we
just
said it
talked about
tonight,
just
this is the
tonight,
third
about
time
getting
now
that-
tonight.
Those dollars and cents. Because I know that, I don't wanna move forward without having the dollars and cents on anything. But we don't have those dollars and cents given to us yet, so we keep asking for something outside the meeting that is coming to us. Because we can't make the decision, we're not making any decisions, we're making recommendations. Okay, so if it's gonna cost us $5 million to fix this and $2 million to build, why are you gonna spend the 5 million? That's where we're looking for those numbers. So until we get those numbers, we can't even make an informed decision on that part. But we can make informed decisions on what we see as necessary, what might be the needs are, and what the problems that we can see. We can make logical decisions. A leaking roof, oh, I need to fix that. You can see that, right?
Well, Mr. Chair, with all due respect, that may be all well and good, but right now we're looking at, from past numbers, we're looking 14 million for that and another 4 million for a road over here.
Mr. Chair, those are separate items.
It's still 14, 18 million that the city owes.
But the city has other monies that it has to spend on everything, and that's the council's role. is to
That's not our
consider
position here,
the
Richard.
financial-
That's where the who and the why and the how
That's
comes
not our
in.
task, right?
Who's making the decisions? How are we gonna pay
city
for it?
council will.
And why are we?
So, Richard, so here's what I'm gonna say at this meeting, okay? You're asking questions that are directly related to city council. It has nothing to do with the people in this group, nothing. So to waste the time of asking for a number from us that we don't have and being frustrated and angry about a number we have not gotten yet, that's mute at this moment. Because as soon as we get those numbers, you're gonna get those numbers and you're gonna have to open up your email and take a look at them when they get sent out to us, because they're going to be available to us. But until then, we just have to be a little bit more relaxed. Because Bruce asked for it, I know he wants it, and I know he wants it, okay? We've had this discussion, I know he wants it, I want it, I know she wants it, I know she wants it. We all want the exact same information that you're asking for, but you're asking at a moment that we don't have it. So to keep asking for something that you can't have right this moment is the same thing I'm gonna tell Mike.
I don't recall in my talk just a minute ago that I asked for the numbers.
There's $14 million being spent on this, and there's.
Well,
14
right, I have
spent on
those
that.
in my head. I'm not asking
Who's
for
supposed to pay
those.
for that, and who's,
Quite
that's,
frankly, sir, I'm not asking for those. I had those in my head.
right, but that has nothing to do with us.
Well, it has a lot to do with the city, my friend.
I understand that, but that's
I rest-
council,
I rest, you have it.
nothing to do with us.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
take us back to where we started the meeting. We were going to talk about what we saw
Right,
a month ago.
correct.
And I would like to give my thoughts on the St. Francis Hall
Thank you.
facility. And my initial thought was copy and paste. Let's pick this thing up, let's put it over here. The cost of that building was 11 million 8. I know I've heard 17, 14, whatever, we're not talking the cost again, but to me, the question I have is, okay, if it's 11.8 that they put that building up over there, which was a gorgeous building, and it had plenty of space, it had everything, I think, that where we need to go here, just my opinion. The 11.8 versus a 17 or a 14 million building, talking numbers, I get that, but it would be interesting to know how they could do it for 11.8 versus what we've talked about, 17, 14 or something.
That's a very good question.
But to add to that, that number that was originally quoted, that was from someone completely different than Brunton, I thought.
No, that's a good point.
It's not. Everybody keeps throwing out these numbers. I got the number right in front of me here. If you're looking at Public Works on this right here that we have, this last one. Public Works and City Hall, $10,564,223. If you're combining that plus building the maintenance, then it's $15,680,881. The 15.5 is both buildings at that time. At the time we were doing it, was building the City Hall Fire Station and the maintenance facility. Just Fire Station, City Hall, with, if they do their estimate owner cost, it comes to 12 million. Otherwise, it's, without this owner cost part that they've shown on the bottom, it was 10.5. These were the numbers that we got from them, and it was ready to go to the city council for a yay or nay. Then they put a hold on it for incorporation.
How many years ago was that?
3, I believe.
It'd been 3, and then.
2 or 3.
So cost of square footage was 347.85, and when we talked to them a month ago, it was close to what, 350.
Great answer. Thanks, Brian.
So it went up a little bit, but the numbers everyone's throwing out was that 15 million was for a brand-new fire station, city hall, and a brand-new maintenance facility. It's a combine. So this was the quote, we got this quote the same time St. Francis got their quote, the same year, same time. We said, whoa, they said yes and started building. Because we were working, I had the St. Francis, their fire chief plus one of their assistant chief that are gone. We were going back and forth on different things on ours station and theirs together. They got the yes and we put it on whoa over here. But they were pretty much almost the same price at that time, almost identical. Actually, theirs cost more.
And I just note that it's the same architect between.
Yes.
St. Francis facility and this, so it makes the ability to compare apples to apples, so.
But a follow-up question to that is, the land that we have over here is paid for. I wonder if their land was paid for and the land was in that.
They owned it.
They owned it too. Okay, got it.
Comparison goes, I would answer those questions that like were brought up about people entering and access in the plan. And as I was looking at it, it doesn't provide for that source of employee entry and access. So that was one of those things I know would be adjusted in the plan that we have. There was no easy in and out for the employees or people that they work with. I know she mentioned that twice, trying to get in and out. And the entry and access for the fire department in this plan, just a little bit more transition, it looked like it needed for them, their safety and security, as far as just a hot zone.
So a question here on this picture, actually the one that's up here. The St. Francis, it has 34,000 square feet. What we're talking about, is that roughly the same square footage?
He's adding it up
Okay,
right now. Total here in 1 second. The pictures you see up there with the town hall and the fire station's 29,168.
thank you.
Dr. Bruce on that too, because if you look at these ones that we got here. Offices, all, is all I have, then there's a big area. Look, all they got is two offices, one here, one here. We don't know how big the city part's gonna get. Are you gonna need? Saw that they had lots of empty offices. Need to do.
So is this the plan that we're looking at? That's the dream, or, you know, getting all the bells and whistles?
No, that was what we started with bells and whistles, and that was what we ended with.
Okay, I take that back. Does that include the maintenance department over there?
No.
Oh,
That's just this. The maintenance part is sitting up there in the picture, but it's not part of what we were doing.
and so that one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is that 6 bays or 9 bays? 6, okay. Okay, yeah, I couldn't tell from the picture if those were. Oh, okay.
And then the third one.
And then if maintenance were to go over there, how much does that expand the building? Oh, okay. Okay. Same property, but a road going through, okay.
I like the idea of additional offices, but the thought I had going along those lines and looking at the plans was we have a second floor, which allows for the fire department and the bunks and the things that you need there, but it had a roof over City Hall. Could they, instead of expanding the footprint, which is significantly more money, raise, because finishing, St. Francis had the area where they have an empty space of a second floor that's not finished, but could be finished at a later time, so that construction costs was, yes, it was a little more, but it wasn't foundation, which is a lot more, and it could be finished off at a later date, if the second floor, but I'm not an architect, so I don't know if that can be added to this or not.
They said yes, and the, part of that, if you look on the plans of the second floor, you can see where the fire department stuff just ended, but they told us we could. Go back one slide.
That right there, that's it.
Yeah, they told us that they could do whatever we wanted on the roof, like, they could have it set up where you could, they'll make it that all you have to do is put the structure around it, or they could just do like, this whole part here was just going to, even though it showed all this, was just going to be one open space with nothing in it. And we were gonna do future to do that. That was just, it's on there what the future would be. They could do the same thing over here with office spaces and doing everything. And they told us at that time, going up was cheaper than going out.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to go up, it's already there. The roof is the same. There was no difference. We'd have to just make more space up there.
Is they schematic for an elevator, escalator, or?
Yes, there's an
Elevator.
elevator on that. That was part of the whole quote and everything. Yeah, so they could easily, yes, instead of going out that, they could have went up. Good call.
that idea, but thank you. I appreciate that. I agree with what you had said, and that was one of the things when I was in St. Francis, I was trying to figure out how things circulated, and one of the things I agree with her, it's one of the things I don't like about City Hall in Blaine is they went and we have a big atrium in the middle, and they've put bulletproof glass on everything, and it sucks, 'cause you can't talk to anybody. But they had a security scare, and they went through the roof with the security side of it, and so that was one of the things that I caught at St. Francis, with their city, chairman, mayor, I think that's who was talking to us. That there's and I wear a badge every day, so I can get into certain spots that other people can't get into. And as you mentioned, it looks like there might be, that would be something to consider. There's a door coming into where those cubicles are, that could be locked as a staff entrance. So staff can get in and out of an area that public can't get into. But then you would want a nice entrance where the public who's coming in and out to City Hall, you want them to be able to come in, or you want them to be able to come in through that entrance and access those meeting rooms without confusion. I have people coming into meetings all the time, and they don't know if they're on the second floor or on the first floor, or this, so the layout of City Hall at Blaine is not necessarily as functional as I would have liked it to be. They did do one where they did the third floor and didn't finish it out for a long time. And then they recently went back and finished third floor because our police department was expanding too much. But I like the idea of, this I think is very, very close to that and very possible because that was the thing in Zimmerman, that I thought there was a lot of wasted space in that one. And long wasted hallways.
When you,
And then,
and like you said, so when you look at this if you can go to Joan, to the first level. So the plan was, just like you're saying.
Yep.
This door here was gonna be just for personnel that are going back. And then this was the counter that people could come up to. This door here was for
conferences, yep.
other people that were gonna come in here for a meeting, but that second door there was going to be key badge that you couldn't get back farther. That's the way they planned it, just like you're saying, they wanted people to get into the meeting rooms, but then not get any farther in, so that's the way they were planning that.
I like how this is laid out, and then like you say, if there's a hot zone in the fire versus then the cool zone, and then. Yeah. I think that would be the one difference I would see, but other than that, I like this layout a lot for functionality.
Yeah, because now they'd have to go out into the public area, get in the elevator and go up. That'd be the only way to get there.
Question about the St. Francis bullet points. The very bottom one is the generator. And I guess my question is the generator included in the plan that we see here? Okay. Is there any kind of just a ballpark, wet thumb in the air cost on a generator?
Do you mean in the amount of money or the layout?
Both.
They had in this the back utility room, that's right here, is where most of that stuff would be. And then they said just outside would be where we would put like a giant generator if the power went down, but this was the mechanical room. Outside of it would be whatever type of generator we would put, but the generator itself was not part of the quote as in a price on it.
Any-
So that would come under FF&E, furnitures, and equipment? So that's another number on, up and, over and above the numbers that you were quoting earlier?
Yes.
Sorry, Bruce, FF&E?
Furnitures, fixtures, and equipment.
Okay, thanks.
And I think St. Francis said they spent 240?
I thought it was 350.
Is 350?
I think 350.
350? Okay. So, yeah, that's what they spent on
But there's this
furnishing the whole
diesel
building.
versus gas, and I thought there was still discussion onto which, I don't know which way
Oh,
to
the
go.
diesel over, because you could do the natural gas one.
Yeah, I
also.
don't know if that affects costs, and I don't know which way to go. I'm just saying, I know there was a difference.
Mr. Chair, with, a lot of numbers are being thrown around and things. I believe that there's gonna be a lot of decisions, whether on our recommendations, that are gonna come with the numbers from Ellers. Okay, so if they say that you're thinking about spending 5 million, 10 million, 15, 20, 50, okay? Not. But the numbers, they're gonna say, here's how much it's going to be per million. Okay, and then we're going to, as a group, we're gonna start looking at that and say, okay, what's the council, how soon is Jeff Holm gonna pass out over in the chair over there? When we come to him and say, we're going to raise taxes by X amount of dollars, and he's gonna go, no, you're not, whatever. But we're gonna make some recommendations, I believe, based on numbers, and that come from potential per 300,000, 400,000, whatever, that they're going to put into their information. This is what it's gonna cost the common homeowner in Baldwin. So what is going to be acceptable to the council if they believe our recommendations that we believe that we need a new city hall, fire station now, and we need a new public works in 5 years, 10 years, or we need all of them, or we need nothing because it's too much money. Okay, so that, I believe, is the recommendations that are going to come from this committee to the council. And so we say, okay, we believe that what's acceptable is 12 million, this is a number. I think that's kind of, at least that's where I am. I want to see what some of the numbers are going to come from Ellers on a per household based on X amount of million.
Once again, great question and statement, but we're gonna have to wait till we get those numbers.
Right, which is next time.
Yep.
Yeah, but I love the discussion going on with the layouts and things like that. What should we do, what could we do? I think that's great, but I think a lot of it's gonna come down to.
100%. I don't, see, the truth of the matter is I don't disagree, but I don't jump to numbers that I don't have until I have option to get them. And I've already discussed with getting those numbers, everybody wants them.
Well, Mr. Chair, and to me, the numbers for the buildings mean nothing. Okay, but it's great that they've done all this background work. Here's what we're looking at, 6 bays, 7 bays, 3 bays, 5 bays, how many offices in City Hall, that's all great. Okay, and that's gonna be the ultimate number, is gonna come from how much per household are we looking at with all the fees, and what interest rate are they saying, are we gonna get, are they gonna quote 4%, 5%, 3.5%? We all know if we got lucky and it was 3.5%, okay, now you can spend more money, basically.
That we're having about what we're gonna spend is nice. But we're not even recommending what we're gonna spend to them. We're recommending to them what the facility should facilitate. Is the nature of our task, is what the facility should be to repair, what the facility is to be used, and what the facility is that's needed. That's our task. We're not gonna have the task of telling them what they're going to spend. We don't have it. I hate to say it, but we will not have that task.
Mr. Chair,
I want to, but we don't have that task.
Mr. Chair, that's true. But ultimately, if we make the recommendation that we believe that it should be a new fire station, City Hall, I mean, the numbers are still gonna come into play. They're gonna make the decision. They're gonna say, sure, we're gonna build a city hall fire station, but we're not spending more than X amount of dollars. And so then you better fit all of that into that funding.
And it won't come out of the infrastructure committee, that number.
Nope. You have to pass it.
Mr. Chair, I think the discussion is good because the numbers, especially down to that household thing, will help inform the recommendation because it will be, okay, this plan works for now 10 years. What's the cost of adding the second story as future space in terms of time and money, in terms of the ability to expand? So that will help this committee say, we think the first phase should be X. Don't do the second story, do the second story. We know it's set up, but we're just not gonna, we don't see the need immediately. Or, you know, based on what it would cost to fix this building and that building, may as well just include the public works as part of the first phase, because you're just throwing good money after bad here.
When we get those numbers, are we gonna get numbers in reference to projected? I know we can't guarantee what a 5-year cost analysis would be if we hold off on any of that construction?
Ellers can prepare estimates
Okay.
to that effect.
I know they're not concrete in stone, but it'll give you a benchmarker going, if you don't build it today, you're gonna pay X, Y, Z tomorrow.
Right.
Mr. Chair, if I could, and summary, you know, I agree with what everybody's saying, and I'm gonna try and, you know, as someone who works in a city hall, I've looked at a lot of different things, and as someone who owns my house and wants to know those numbers, because I deal with numbers every day, I literally walked onto this infrastructure committee going, I don't want to have them spend any money at all. I don't want to spend them, I don't want taxes to go up, and I work, my salary's paid by taxes. And I was sitting here going, we got to make what we have here work, and why can't we make what's here work? And in the meetings that we've had, and in walking around and what we have here, and comparing to what I work in every day, and the bigger piece is looking at the fire hall, and the fact that my neighbor had a fire, and they were there, and they were able to support, and they took care of it with minimal damage. They could have lost their house because their oven caught on fire and could have exploded because it was gas, and they prevented that. Because they were able to get here and they were able to take care of it, and I thank them very much for that. But the space that they have over there can limit that ability, and what if it was my house, and because they can't get in and out over here, or they can't get out on the roads because our roads infrastructures or something, and other sites may benefit us. There are those pieces that I wasn't considering when I first walked in here. And so, yes, I definitely want the numbers, and I want to go, okay, what does it take if we stay here? And if that's only $1 million, is that easier to provide our constituents with that number versus, I like the idea of this. I like how it's laid out. And as somebody who works in a city hall and the factors, and I would tell you, I have to go out in the common area to go up and down. I can't hit a stairway without going into a common area. So if that's how this stays, that's how this stays. It's not a bad thing. Would it be nice to have staff behind everything? Yeah, so there's all those factors, and that's where the numbers come of, we started with bells and whistles, we cut it back, we'll get to those numbers. But as someone who honestly walked in saying, I don't want to do any of this, I'm sitting here going this way. And yes, the numbers will play into that. But I think tonight, what I wanted to circle back to is, again, looking at this plan, and as Brian said, do we need more offices or not? And if we think it needs more offices, that's something we need to say we want that quote on. St. Francis had 5 bays, this has 6. Do we need all 6, or do we cut that back, and what does that determine to those numbers? And then when we come back, we'll get those numbers. So at this point, my vote, and then is I like the layout that's here. I like the idea of quoting open space on the second floor, and those are the numbers that I would like to see, and then compared to what we have here, and next time compare those two numbers and then go forward from there. I'll be quiet now, sorry.
Can I interject something? So I'm just thinking about the taxpayer and the household and how much I'm going to have to pay more if, we decide to build something, or the community does, or the city does. what I did like about the Zimmerman one was there was a community space. Like, I would feel better if I'm like paying taxes towards a building that me or my family could essentially go use. Like, say we have a graduation party,
That's
or,
nice.
is it on there?
This room so you can section this off and that's what this kitchen is for. This is a
Okay.
community rental room, it's already there.
Right. So that would be important to me as a taxpayer, like, how am I gonna use this space? Cause yes, fire department's awesome, city hall's awesome, but how am I gonna directly use that?
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I like that.
I would love, like,
Brian?
That's a good point.
and then I'm also thinking like, it would be lovely to be able to create some sort of revenue. I think they were talking about farmers markets and things like that. It would be great to like have community events and rent out spaces and then we're getting money back to put into the space as well. So, I don't know.
Brian, do you know the size of that space?
Just the kind of the plan of doing it. Not a big giant section, but if you look at.
Chad, did you say 25 by 30?
No, 22,000.
Oh, okay, okay.
No one can get to the city council chamber part. Was that?
Mr. Chair, so
But
that
it's
was.
okay, you've talked loud enough.
That was something St. Francis talked about, that they don't currently rent their council chambers out. And then at Zimmerman, where it's obviously a dedicated community space, they talked about the overhead costs that go along with that in terms of staffing, the equipment that they have. I mean, they had a full bar there basically, so. I think this is probably a reasonable balance that gives the city the opportunity to do that. Because otherwise you're adding staff to a city that's trying not to add staff for those things, so.
Chief, do you remember what the number was for people in this one?
I believe 100, and you can divide it.
Where was the kitchen at?
So you could have two simultaneous meetings going on.
So that's storage is right here.
In there?
Yep.
Just a question, Brian? Is that a folding wall in front of the council chamber so it can be separated from?
Yes, that's the
community
folding
room?
wall, the
Okay,
one that
thank you.
goes.
I assume that, but see what I'm talking about, right in front of the council chambers? So you could lock off that so nobody can be sitting in the council chairs and screwing around with equipment. It would be basically separated, and there's still plenty of exits to meet the fire code.
Random thing I just remembered too is, didn't Franny say that they had 900 fire calls? And then they were projecting 1,000?
Yeah, they have that many calls. They've got two stations though, too.
Oh,
That's
true.
not their only station. How many, Brian, do you know how many rigs they got over in Bethel there?
They got, three, right, 'cause they had engine tender and a grass rig.
Yeah. And we're at 200.
I do. I have one last comment question. It's more of a understanding of what our mission is. I'm new to this, first time I've ever been on one of these committees, but how often does actually the committee's recommendation get accepted by the city council? I mean, is there any facts or data on that? It's like, is it a crapshoot? Is it like, they're gonna go, whatever we say, we're not, back to the comment about Holm is gonna say, I'm not spending a nickel.
Well, if you look at some of the other.
Well, I think Bruce stated better what I was looking at, 20 million, 50 million, it's what's per household, if 200, 150 per household at a high number, no one's gonna have a problem with that, but if it's, yeah.
So, but the other thing to think about is,
I got just something real quick to add. Apologize for being late earlier. I didn't mean to interrupt there. But just to clarify, are we discussing of what we need or what we want to spend? You know, and I think our primary charge is looking at the space needs analysis, you know, the functionality and access and how people get in and people get out and things like that. So a couple of thoughts on that is that, excuse me, as far as whether our recommendations are followed or not, let's not get caught up into that. We're here to spend the time that the council doesn't have to have these conversations. So we're doing a lot of the legwork. I don't want to get caught up in whether they'll follow us or not. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter to me. But I enjoy the community aspect to this and the conversations that we're having. Excuse me. But as far as the accommodating the future and the likely growth of Baldwin, you know, I've been in a lot of city halls and I agree, Blaine is kind of it wasn't designed very well. But as far as size goes, I don't think what's in front of us is maybe big enough for what Baldwin's likely to experience in the future as far as administrative staff, likely in-house finance, things of that nature. I think the size of Baldwin is more likely to be comparable to the city of Oak Grove. They're planning a new fire station and all of that. And I think that size, Brian, is more conducive to what we would experience here for growth. Not Linwood, there's just too many wetlands there. They're not gonna have enough buildings or growth to accommodate that size of a city infrastructure. But my experiences with the administrative piece, not the public works or the fire side, so I'll leave that to you guys. But as far as office space goes, I think there's a lot of real challenges here as far as privacy and access and security and things like that. But as far as size goes and layout, I like Oak Grove. I do. The way you get in, the way you get out, it makes a lot of sense. There's enough land, like there is enough land here to do things as what would need to be phased. And that's the last point I wanted to make is if we tell the city council, this is what we think the city needs now and going forward. City looks at this in conjunction with school board referendums and things like that, say, oh, that's just too expensive. Let's phase it. Let's phase it like this in order to get to where we want to go. So that's my 2 cents.
So you said you like Oak Grove.
I do.
How does that compare to the St. Francis?
Compared to St. Francis, I really like the point that Kate Thunstrom had as far as getting into the offices, having to go through there's some functionality there that would be questionable. It's just a little bit more open as far as options. You come in the front door, you're gonna go there. It's pretty segmented enough that you can get to where you're going without going through intervening spaces and things like that. I could bring Oak Grove. I didn't think that we'd get to that point today. Maybe we're not anyway, but I think those plans would be, and I have them on my phone, but that's something worth looking at. You know, the functionality of another fire department, you know, but as far as the office side goes, that's what my experience again is what's been proposed. The layout is okay, but it's not gonna be enough. You know, as far as, 10 years down the road, whatever, as far as what staff is probably gonna be here, I think that needs to accommodate a few more offices.
the middle of, making the argument to the judge. So, we're gonna take that information you bring us, and we're gonna say, you're gonna give us at least the guide point of whether it's worth putting any money in here, or just move on to the next step, which is building something new. That's gonna be a great determining answer. It's gonna be the council to figure out, can we make this work now, or do we need to buy a little time, or do we, need a little more massaging, et cetera.
And
That's
just
how it's gonna fall.
to punctuate on that is just like the planning commission. Look at all the time that was spent at the infancy of that. Our kids were running around back there. Tim Kaine was here. The kids were playing together. We were talking about the planning commission. Now it's firing on all cylinders. It takes time for these things to develop.
Back to the buildings. So Andy, you're talking about, I've been in Oak Grove, and that was my office for a while when I was working open. Would you think the footprint of the bottom part, where we had the offices on this, the same above would be big enough? You just, in your mind?
Yes.
The footprint of this side that's to the north,
Essentially double it, yeah.
putting that on top would probably could last us 50 years. I'm just trying to get it in my head for when we're doing this stuff. How much do you think if we put the whole thing above it like that?
Yeah, a small meeting space is always nice to have, instead of sitting in the big, smaller conference room, 15 to 20 people, all big TV, things like that, where you can have separate,
Yep, there's a conference, that's the one that
That's the conference room, okay. Yeah, so that on the main floor, and then above that could be separate offices as well, yeah, I think so, Brian.
I have a question for the records and storage. Does that have to be in the exact same area as is it easier for you to have records and storage, Joan, to be right there? As opposed to what if that was upstairs? Because then for that whole, how do we, without going out to a public space, could that space essentially be used to get up?
Yeah, that would be,
So,
that'd be up to the architect when we're doing it, because now they were just dealing with one level, so I'm sure we give them a second level, they tweak and make magic things happen and show us it again.
Right, I was just.
They line it all up for
Storage and-
bathrooms, and they make everything, so if you're gonna put a bathroom upstairs, it's above these bathrooms, so everything is cheaper because it's above each other. I can comment one more thing. So, we're,
After listening with what Andy just said about maybe not having enough space, and how people said they would like to have that community center, and it's built small now. If you're talking, we hear this 50-year number, which I know is impossible to imagine, but you might want to look at increasing that size. It doesn't mean you have to open it up as Zimmerman does to start, but you have that in the future, that if we do become a city of 15,000 people. Yeah.
so one other thing I had, just to let you guys know, on the fire department side, we got an extra bay on, all the way on the end. The reason we were looking at that was, with the mezzanine that goes to the second level. When we were at the Elk River one, you saw all the training things they had there where you can train and do off of them. That's what we're planning on that second level of the mezzanine. that you could train into the first level bay. So we weren't planning on putting vehicles in the bay necessarily. That was gonna be open. So during the whole winter, cold months, we can do a lot of training from top to bottom, doing a lot of stuff. That's the way we set it up, because we saw what Elk River was doing, and all the schools are placed in Elk River, and all of our new guys go to Elk River, and that's where they do all their training. So that was the plan, so that we could do training here ourselves, so we're not having to not do anything in the winter months. So that's why we put an extra bay, and I think at the time they told us it was
It's half the cost of office space.
like 150,000 for the one bay, and that was it.
And if I may, like I said,
Yes.
Now that I look at this a little closer, I do have one more comment, is that open office idea can be challenging. Just crosstalk, and, people, one person interrupting another. We have a similar situation in my office, and the productivity, I think, is better if you're separated. There's just so much, distraction when you're in a room with, 4 or 6 people, all trying to work. Somebody's on the phone, oh, I can go to the car, I can go to another room to take a call. That level of inefficiency, I think, should be considered of an open office. I don't like it.
We fought, I'm gonna say as in me and Chad fought hard to make them all offices, but when we went to Newport News, they were building their brand-new City Hall Fire Station, and that's what they did in there, and they kinda liked it. As in, they liked the design. They liked the design, the city council members that were with us, they liked the design, and I think it was more the cost over the design. Because, that was our big thing. You put 6 people there trying to talk in cubicles, it kind of doesn't work. But
If I can interject as somebody who sits in a city hall who does have cubicles. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but we also, it's nice to have a spot like this for site inspectors. There are gonna be, you're doing that right now for us. You're the one going out doing
right.
all of the inspections, but maybe someday that's in-house.
That's
I
a
don't
really
know.
good, that's a really good point.
So
It's not
inspectors
that,
would not be there all day long, but they would then have a place to sit and then more offices could be upstairs.
agreed. So it really depends on the functionality. I mean, if you have
Exactly.
secretary work, I mean, accounting work, of course, you don't want to be making mistakes on numbers. But you could have segmented where there is a space for 2 or 3 or 4 people that would collaborate and work together and speak, yes. But depending on the function of the person that's sitting there, that's really what it's dependent on, yes.
I agree.
Again, for our purposes, again, it's just so distracting, it's fresh on my mind because I just heard some complaints today.
Can I ask the board,
I'll throw in a comment about that workspace up there. As a guy who worked in a cubicle setting and office setting for 32 years, the collaboration that could occur in that area, if you have the right team sitting in there, would be fantastic. If you wall it off and you got a bunch of people that you want to have talk, communicate, solve problems in a rapid fashion, you would destroy that. So it really, your comment about what is that area intended for, that is the key to be able to understand, to say, how do we want to set this up?
Couldn't you later come in and build a wall if it was that big of an issue?
Yes, most likely with the grid ceilings, you could drop down electrical, you could stand up some walls pretty quickly as long as you took the exiting into account ahead of time. Absolutely. Right on top of the flooring, it would be pretty easy to build some demising walls and soundproof them if that was the goal. Interrogation group.
I do have one other question, and we kind of bounced the ball around tonight about a community center. And is that really on the table for this group, or is it just, we should just distance ourselves from it and not? Because I'll just give you my thought on it, if anybody cares. But anyway, we heard the guy down in Zimmerman say, it's underutilized, it's a cost, it's an expense, it's a waste of money. If we did it here, we'd have to compete with them already on top of something that's a money loser for them. It seems like we should really seriously think about if we're going to do it. But again, back to my original question, is that really on the table for this group, or is it not really?
When we did it, they did it so it was big enough to seat as many people as they would want in a meeting. And then that's when they came up with the idea of putting shutting it off to there, that people could come and do it. It wasn't that they were actually planning on doing that, but they wanted to have the ability of the booster club coming in, the football club coming in and doing it. That's the only reason. They weren't looking at it being a community center. It's just a space that could be used by the community if needed. And they didn't talk about charging, doing anything. They just thought, hey, if we cut this off, it could be used for more than just our meetings, where sometimes you have 3 people show up. So they wanted it to be used more when we were dealing it with our group that was putting together.
I think it's more of a community room, this is, than a community center. And I think also, I'm assuming that it could be an EOC, Emergency Operations Center, if there's fire department can get in there, or the people that need to manage if we had a major issue within Baldwin. So it could be multifunction, but I think it's more focused on a community room, small enough that it's,
You also look at the location of that room.
I would say that maybe the Zimmerman Community Room is underutilized because not many people know about it. So, yeah, I'd say if there's marketing around it, people would come.
They
So-
had a tough go with the first person that was in charge.
And here nor there, whether it's community room or center, but their problem is they're paying an incredible amount to have somebody run that versus if it's on site, now you have an employee who is there during their regular workday that someone just calls in and they book it. $70,000, $80,000 benefits and salary package, so.
What does it cost to rent that park pavilion? Do you recall what he told us that is to rent that? Uh, I'm thinking like $1,000 or something like.
Varied by the event.
Yeah. Yep.